Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Chicago Smart Podcast. This is your host, David. This is episode 5 of the Chicago Smart Podcast. Today, these are going to be the topics I'm going to cover. So, guys, buckle up, fasten those seatbelts. I'm going to talk about Steele injury, the Justin Steele injury, which already happened. I know that's been covered to death, but I kind of want to just say something about that, but then also transition into the Cubs now. I'm also going to issue an apology because I forgot one team to mention last year. I'm sorry, last year. Excuse me. Take that back. Last week, I forgot to mention one team in the NL West that I completely forgot about. So I owe them an apology. But I also have an apology from my favorite target sometimes, David Kaplan from ESPN 1000. He actually issued an apology to the Cubs. And that was pretty surprising. He actually did it over the weekend during his recap. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about hustle in the game, like hustling to first base and just hustle in general, right? So I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about the effects of hustle and kind of bring something back from 3 years ago. What happens with lack of hustle and when that sort of affects a team in general. I'm also going to talk about the Bulls and the patience that they're asking us for. So I'm going to talk about all those things on this edition of the Chicago Smart Podcast. All right. So as I said, I'm going to talk about the Justin Steele injury and just the Cubs in general. I don't have a lot to say, too much, other than what you guys probably already heard on the radio in regards, or even if you guys have read or whatever on social media about Justin Steele. He got his surgery on Friday. He's going to be about it. It's going to be out about a year. As I understand it from the report they had on Marquee, it wasn't a full Tommy John, so he's probably going to be out about a year. So he'll be back at some point next year, maybe around this time, depending on what that ramp up looks like. Again, obviously, I know that this sounds cliche, but I really mean this from my heart. Thoughts and prayers to him. Hopefully, he rehabs that arm back and he's back in that rotation next year. Maybe that rotation will look a little different next year. But again, that's next year. Again, I hope the best for Justin Steele and that he can get to this as best as he can. That the team is supporting him as much as they can. They're trying to keep him, I guess, as much in tune with the team as much as he can. I know it's probably pretty hard to watch the team play, but I hope that that organization, the Cubs, are keeping him, try to keep him as tuned into the team and they just continue to move forward because there's nothing they can do. This is not a video game. They can't just hit reset and be like, this never happened. That's what I kind of want to touch upon today is in regards to the Cubs is, again, I get it. You can't lose a pitcher like Justin Steele and be like, right? It's okay. It's time to move on. He's one of their aces. To me, they have three aces. As much as you may not want to agree with me who those three aces are, at least those three frontline pitchers is Justin Steele, Shota Imanaga, and Jameson Tayo. And again, I'm not basing this off of the last two starts. I'm just simply saying the guys that you're going to say those are your at least three frontline starters. And no disrespect to any starters right now or anybody that's coming back on a rehab assignment. But again, until they prove otherwise, these are the guys that this is the guys that they were using to pull the wagon. Those horses. Unfortunately, he's not there. We can't lay down, and that's what I'm talking about today. Is these analysts want us to lay down. It's just like Justin Steele's gone. That's it. Cubs had a nice season. It's over. We just started the season. We literally just started the season. The team could sit there and say, what are we going to do? I know it sounds cruel to say, we'll move on, next guy up. But unfortunately, they have to. The season keeps getting played out. These teams are not going to take any mercy against them and say, well, they don't have Justin Steele, so we're going to take it easy on them. They have to continue playing the games. The games don't get played on paper. The games don't get played by a simulation like you would on a PS5 or Xbox, MLB The Show game. They get played. They have to get out there 27 outs. And those 27 outs, like Craig Counsell said recently, you got to get those 27 outs. They got to get them. You got to get them. Who has the highest score at the end of those 27 outs is ultimately going to be the winner of that game. If they go into extras, obviously, then those outs obviously are going to be extra on top of that. If you go into extra innings and whatnot, but again, those 9 innings, those 27 outs you have to get, they're hard. That other team has to get it just as much as you do, and these teams are not gonna, and they should not take the Cubs for granted. Right now, they could just be hot, and the entire month of May they can just go into just cold into the cellar and cold. Look, I don't want to put that onto the universe, but again, that's possible. It's baseball, right? There could be a regression there, whatever that case may be. But at no point should they ever lay down. No point should they ever listen to what some of these analysts are saying and saying that's it, they're done because nobody's going to trade him a starter right now until July. That is completely true. No one is going to trade a starter right now. If they were to even remotely make a phone call to another organization and say we would like to know what it would be to get starter A, they're going to ask for a king's ransom because they're in the advantage. Whether that team is in the cellar and they know they're going to stay in the cellar, they're still going to ask for a king's ransom because that's still an ace pitcher that they're looking for, even though it's not the ace. Say it's their number 2, right? No, there's been a lot of names floated out there of who the Cubs can possibly get to replace Justin Steele, right? From now and into the future, right? Even to pair him with him when he comes back. But they cannot lay down, right? Here come the Dodgers again. Here come the Phillies. All teams that are very good contenders. Milwaukee, I don't ever count them out until the end of the season, regardless of what you're seeing out there with Milwaukee. You still have a lot of teams in the National League that are going to be gunning because there's only so many spots. I don't care if you have 3 wild cards and you got 3 division winners. I don't care. Again, 3 wild card spots, 3 division winners. Everybody wants a piece of the pie because you never know what's going to happen when you get to the dance. Everybody goes back to 0-0, and at that point, those season stats are great. But at that point, it's what have you done for me lately? So at this point, they can't think beyond May right now at this point, honestly. And again, we're coming up at the end of April. So in fact, I'll even take that back and retract that. They can't think anything past this week, right? They have to get through those 2 with the Dodgers. They have to get through 3 with the Philadelphia Phillies this weekend, which is going to be a great series. Both of them are a great series. And it's going to be a tough matchup because these are 2 good teams that are in a race because they want to be there at the end in October to represent the National League. The Cubs cannot lay down. The Cubs cannot listen to anything that anybody's saying. All they have to do is step up. Now is the opportunity for one of these young arms to say, I want to take that spot. I want to step up. I want to show that I'm not just some mop-up guy. I'm not just some spot starter. I want to show you guys that in the future, I am your future, right? That's how Justin Steele started. He started in the bullpen. Then eventually he showed that he could be stretched out and he could be a starter. It's somebody. Somebody's got to step up at least until that time that they can get some sort of major league talent. Again, they are major league talent, but you know what I mean. And another good pitcher to put and to pair into that rotation with Imanaga, you know, Tyone, and all the other guys that they're going to have, pitching for them. Whether it's a Ben Brown, whether it's going to be the gentleman that pitched yesterday, and I cannot remember his name, and it's failing me right now. But Ben Brown's the first person that came to my mind. Colin Ray, I know he didn't pitch yesterday, and there was a gentleman that pitched yesterday, and he just his name is it's gonna come to me, and I'll probably just spit it out at some point. But again, anyways, they cannot lay down. They cannot concede these games because nobody's going to concede the games and say, well, you guys were out one of your aces. We're going to concede this game. And we're just going to say, hey, we don't need the victories. We're the Dodgers. We're just going to be like, here, you guys take these next 2 games. No, every game is going to count because now what happens in April can affect you down the line. Because again, it's a race, and it's a race, and it's not a sprint. It's a race. It's not a sprint. We're not trying to rush to get there. 1 game at a time. But that's the Cubs, right? Lately, they've just been really good. That Friday game was insane. I will go ahead and I'll tell on myself. I stopped watching when I saw that the bullpen blew it, and I said, "Let me see how bad this got." All of a sudden, I see it's um 11-10. And I'm like, 11-10? It was 11-7. Where did they get the other 3 runs from? Turns out Carson Kelly hits a 3-run homer right when I tune in. That's when Kyle Tucker's taking his at-bat. That puts us ahead by 1 run. Then comes Suzuki, who then puts us ahead by 2 runs. That game was absolutely bananas on Friday, and I thought that the bullpen just blew it. And I was like, this is the game that they had right in hand after that grand slam from Ian Happ, and they blew it. This is going to be one that's going to come back and bite them in the butt. Sure enough, they came back. Saturday, they had a great game. And sure enough, our friend David Kaplan, on his recap on the YouTube channel, actually apologized for what he said. Not so much the overrated about the manager, but about how he blew his gasket a few weeks ago when they did blow that lead and blew the game against the Diamondbacks. These very same Diamondbacks. I'm going to have you guys listen right now.
Team. And it's time that maybe I'm as guilty as any. We stop going after one bad outing by the bullpen. Oh, this team's this team's that. Guess what? This offense is really good. They're going to have to add on. So my shopping list, Jed, Whenever the time is right and people start making trades, get a bullpen arm or two, get another starter to sit in for Justin Steele, who's out, and get Kyle Tucker signed. Cubbies win, baby. Take that.
As you guys just heard, that was courtesy of the recap from David Kaplan's YouTube channel. He does one after every game for the Cubs and the White Sox and the Bulls and the Bears. I'm not sure the Blackhawks. I know I've heard them all for those teams that I just mentioned, which was Bulls, Bears, Cubs, Sox. Those four teams there that I just mentioned. He does a recap of them, of that game, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is. But a few weeks ago, he went off and said that this manager was overrated and that was it, right? And he had to admit that he was wrong. And it's about time that some of these guys start admitting and say, hey, you know what? I blew it. I'm wrong. I'll sit here. I'll tell you I'm wrong. Just like a few weeks ago, I said, hey, I wish that these guys would just step up and say, hey, I'm wrong. I made an error in judgment. I overstepped and I said something I shouldn't have said. I was wrong. You know what? This team's a lot better than I gave them credit for. And now here comes my apology. My apology is for the NL West San Francisco Giants. When I was mentioning about teams that have to contend, that the Cubs have to contend and just the National League has to contend with, and that NL West, I forgot to mention the Giants. I mentioned the Diamondbacks that just left town. I mentioned the Dodgers, of course, and the Padres, but I forgot to give credit where credit's due with the Giants. That is a young, very good and hungry team that the Cubs and every other team in the National League needs to watch out for. Because again, I get it. The Dodgers have this fantastic lineup right now, even with Otani being on a paternity leave for the birth of his daughter. Congratulations, Shohei. But they got to watch out because, again, what I was talking about the Cubs, these teams are not going to lay down for the Dodgers. Certainly San Diego's not going to do it. San Diego knows that they have the Dodgers number. They were close to beating them last year, and the Dodgers wouldn't have made it to the World Series. I don't know if the Padres would have made it, but definitely they'd eliminated them in that divisional round. Dodgers weren't going anywhere. But coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? They persevered, right? We can say that about any team. Oh, they had their number. They had their number, right? Even when the Cubs won the World Series, man, they went to Game 7. Cleveland tied it. They had their number, but they didn't win. Again, at the end of the day, to the victor goes the spoils, right? But again, these teams did not say at the beginning of the season, well, the Dodgers paid for everybody. That's it. Season's over. I guess we're just going to pack it and see you in 2026. They can't. They cannot concede the season because they cannot just go off of paper. On paper, that lineup looks deadly, right? And when the Cubs saw them last weekend, they didn't look very deadly because the Cubs just had their number. Sometimes bat slump, sometimes pitching's just really good. A lot of things can happen, and a team can be had for a series. Doesn't mean that in a longer 5 or 7 game series, the Cubs could beat the Dodgers. I don't know that, but of course, I'm gonna go with my hometown team. Of course they can, right? Anything can happen. But again, these teams in the NL West are not going to lay down because the Dodgers decided to go buy everybody that was a free agent that they could possibly buy. And then buy sounds like a bad word, that they can possibly sign because they didn't buy them, right? These men have a decision. Hey, these guys made me a great offer. This is good for me and my family. This is great. This is what I wanted. I'm going to go with this team to the highest bidder. Congratulations. But neither is the rest of that National League. The Philadelphia Phillies have a chip on their shoulder who are coming in this weekend. They have a chip on their shoulder because they made it to the World Series a few years ago and they didn't win. They have a chip on their shoulder. They have a great lineup that is very dangerous for former Cub Kyle Schwarber in it. These guys are not going to lay down despite what ESPN and despite what all these other analysts tell you on MLB Network and everywhere else you read, whether it's The Athletic you read, or the New York Post, or the Sun Times, or wherever you're reading that they're talking about baseball in general, or any of these baseball shows and podcasts are going to tell you, well, that's it. They might as well concede. That's how the season works. Season doesn't work with you winning games on paper. This is not a PlayStation. This is not a video game console where you can just take a game and basically put it in your favor by doing whatever you want to do by adjusting the settings and having the team not be so well on the other side where you can have them take more strikes and you can do things. People tend to cheat on these consoles, but that's another conversation for another day. But again, these Cubs are playing really good lately. Right now they're 14-10. They're getting through a very rough part of their beginning of their season. By strength of schedule alone, when they ranked them, they did the power rankings today. They do them every Monday. They're ranked number 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 5. They are ranked 5. And again, based on other teams, Dodgers being one. I know the Mets might have been ahead of them or behind them. I want to say they were ahead of them. But again, why are the Cubs so high? Because of strength of schedule because who they're beating. They're winning series, right? They're winning series and they're stacking up victories. That's the whole point, right? Of course we would like a sweep. Absolutely. But when you haven't lost a series at all, and you just keep piling up series and piling up victories, that's gonna add up to big numbers at the end. And you might just be able to get a buy into that and pass that wild card round and not have to play anybody in that wild card round. But again, that's future. We're still today, as I record this, is April 21st. That is a long way to go. We don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know if their offense is just gonna like falter and they're just hot right now and they're gonna sputter. I don't know that. But I don't know that either about the Dodgers or about the Phillies or about Milwaukee, if they're going to surge. Are the Mets going to surge? Are the Braves going to finally start surging? We don't know that. These are the things that we don't know. That's what's so great about a 162 game season is sometimes the teams that start really, really bad sometimes and have a really good team and they just take a bad sputter coming out of that starting gate, sometimes can start to catch up with the other team because the other team starts to slump. Or there starts to be, things that happen that are crazy in baseball. Somebody gets into a 12-game winning streak. I think that happened to the Twins, I think, last year, the year before last, where the Twins won a 12 games in a row. You don't know. When momentum starts to carry, those 26 men in that locker room start to believe that there's nobody in this Major League Baseball organization, Major League Baseball sport that can beat us because they start to get into that mindset. And when somebody starts to get into a mindset of we're not going to lose, it's going to be pretty hard to beat a team. And in games like Friday's game, sometimes can spark guys to say, well, if we can do that against them, we can do that against anybody. We're never down. We're never, we're going to lose games, but it's going to be hard to get those 27 outs against us because you're going to have to kill us. It's basically going to have to be, we're going to have to basically just beat on each other like two heavyweight boxers in the middle of the ring, and somebody's going to either get knocked out or somebody's going to be standing at the end of this game. But we're just going to keep trying, and we're going to be fighting to get to the bat rack because everybody wants a chance to be the hero of that game. So we are going to see where the Cubs are at after this weekend, and hopefully when I come back next week, I'm going to try to do these a little bit more frequently, maybe on Mondays or Tuesdays. But when I come back next week, I hope that I have fantastic news that the Cubs somehow found a way to either sweep that little 2-game series with the Dodgers, split it, to end that season series with them, because then we won't see them unless we play them in October at some point, and then that first 3-game series with the Phillies, which I'm really looking forward to more so than the Dodgers. And I don't know why. I like to see the matchup against the Phillies. I think the Phillies are a really good team, but they're coming to see a different Cubs team, and we're going to see what happens next Monday. I'm either going to be really happy or really somber or have something to really to comment on the 5-game homestand that the Cubs are going to be having coming up this weekend. Next thing I want to talk about is hustle. So there was a play a few days ago that caught my attention. It came across my radar. Jared Klinick, and I hope I'm saying his name right, from the Atlanta Braves, did not hustle out of the box and got caught at second. His manager was asked about it, which is Brian Snitker from the Braves, their manager, their skipper. And they asked him, he said, I really didn't see it. I think he might have been protecting the player because, again, when he ran past him, he ran past their dugout to get to first. He didn't hustle out of the box. He got caught at second. I guess he got caught admiring his hit too much, thinking it was going out of the park, and he got caught at second. Lack of hustle is something that gets on my nerves. You never know. I don't care. Name me the best shortstop you can name me right now in Major League Baseball. I'm not even going to give you a name. Think of a name right now who is the best shortstop right now in Major League Baseball. And he makes that play, a short little hop to shortstop. And I'm not saying this is what happened with Jared Klinick. I'm just giving you an example of hustle. Ball gets hit to the shortstop, right? And you know for sure that 10 times out of 10, he's going to step up, pick up that ball, scoop it, throw it to first, boom. But what you don't know is it going to take a funny hop? Is that shortstop going to go back thinking that ball's going to keep coming? He's going to play it back, and all of a sudden that ball just stops. Or he plays it up and goes up to go play it, and it hits and skips out either the lip of the glove or the back of the glove and that's it. It's an error. And now you're going to get caught out because guess what? Now he can recover, or you're already walking back to the dugout thinking that's it, right? Not saying that's what happened with Jared Clinic. I'm just giving you an example of what gets on my nerves as far as hustle, right? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie this into some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about right now. And I'm even going to go back as far as June 2022 and how that can affect a team just in general, right? So Brian Snitker says, hey, I didn't see it. What am I supposed to say? Well, then somebody, of course, because we live in the age that we live in, goes back, and I guess it got to, Acuna. Acuna is going to say, hey, if that had been me, he'd have sat me down. That's exactly actually what happened to him twice, I think, in the last 2 or 3 seasons where he was pimping a home run or he was admiring his work too much and got caught. Snicker takes him out of the game, sits him, right? They wanted to play this as, and you guys can play into it if you guys want to and maybe look into that article a little bit. Somebody said they think that it might be a racial thing because he did it also with Ozuna. I'm not going to play into the race thing. I just think that Snicker was just saying at this point, I'm not going to address it. Or if he addressed it in private and didn't really want to put it out there to the public. I don't know, right? All he said was it was almost like a non-issue. In fact, Clinic was the one who brought it to him and apologized for not hustling. And that's how he kind of sort of addressed it with him at that point. Don't know what was said. But again, lack of hustle can affect the team because they said, well, if he's not going to hustle it out, right? And is going to sit there and their minds work, I'm going to do it because apparently Skip's not going to do anything about it. And that can lose the clubhouse. One little play like that can lose an entire clubhouse. You say, David, how is that possible? How can one play for a lack of hustle, even if the manager does something about it, lose the clubhouse? Now, if the manager does something about it, he may not lose the clubhouse because it's like, well, someone might say, well, Skip, you're being a little too hard. Maybe it was a last of judgment. It's a last of judgment. It happens, right? For the Acuna thing, he said that it didn't matter. You were representing the name on the cross your jersey, not so much the name behind your jersey. So it didn't matter if you're a superstar or not. You have to hustle. June of 2022, there was an article that came out not only in the New York Times, the Sun Times. It was in all kind of sports pages everywhere. It was Tony La Russa, who was still the manager of the White Sox. I'm not picking on the White Sox. I'm just using this as just a little bit example of what could happen, right? He asked his team, out of the 9 players he had starting, he asked his team, his regular starters, 7 out of those 9 starters, he asked them to slow it down per the trainer's instructions to conserve their legs so they could be fresh when the playoffs came. Now, sometimes that can make sense in the grand scheme of things, but then when you think about it, you say, well, wait a minute. That lack of hustle to first base is almost saying, well, if I hit a routine grounder, I'm not even going to hustle out of the box because I'm just going to conserve my legs because I got to get ready for October. Well, October doesn't happen. The wild card doesn't happen. Nothing happens unless that one play, you never know, can turn around an entire season. It could turn around an entire ball club. You guys can be slumping. All of a sudden, you see somebody just fire it out of the box. And guess what? Man, you know what? He's firing out of the box. I'm going to follow him. That's my leader right there in the clubhouse. There's a lack of leadership in that clubhouse. I don't know if anybody in that Braves clubhouse addressed Clinic other than the skipper after Clinic brought it to him. But you're going to lose an entire clubhouse by not addressing these things. And I'm not saying in public, but do it in private, right? Because I felt like Tony Russa had his moments where he would address something like these in public and say, well, yeah, per the trainer's instructions, 7 out of our 9 players, I've asked them not to hustle. Go look up the article. Look it up. Google it. It says Tony La Russa and slow it down. If you put those phrases in there, you're going to find the article in there from June of 2022. I believe that's when the White Sox went from 2021, where they look really good and they got beat by a very good Houston Astros team in the playoffs, to this guy doesn't believe in us. Why am I going to even try? Right? He doesn't care if we hustle out of the box. He doesn't care about anything. He's talking about something in the future, right? We're talking about something that's going to happen in the future. At that point, it was June. So you're talking about things that were going to happen 2 to 3 months in the future. He predicted they were going to go to the playoffs. They were in a slump. They were losing in June of 2022. They thought that for sure that they were going to make it to the World Series. There was prediction that they were going to make it to the World Series at the beginning of the season because of what happened at the end of 2021 in that 2021 season when they won 93 games. All of a sudden, they never sniffed the playoffs again, and they are on now, not one, but their second manager after Tony La Russa. Because after Tony La Russa, here came Pedro Grifol, who had the same philosophy and says, we're going to address it. We're going to work on all that. Didn't look like you were working on anything, Pedro, because guess what? Your guys look as sluggish as they did when La Russa was there, right? And that is a bigger issue that starts at the top. And I probably will go into more deeper dive on that as I start to learn more about this current White Sox because I'm seeing a different team. Forget the record. I'm talking about the hustle part of it, right? Sometimes, even when you're just in a bad rebuild, sometimes just those little moments can spark you guys for the future, right? There's little things that are going to spark you for the future and can establish leadership in that locker room, right? Because the manager is ultimately the leader, but there has to be a veteran player. There has to be somebody in that locker room that's going to call this crap out. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Lack of hustle. This is not to give the Cubs praise. Oh, yeah, they're first in this category and PCA hustles out of the box all the time. That's not the only team. There's a lot of teams that have a lot of players who are going to hustle. They're going to hustle. They're going to do whatever. They're going to do whatever they can to do to get that extra 90. Joe Madden, former manager of the Cubs, always had this mantra called respect 90. Run hard out of the box. I don't care if it's a pop up. I don't care what it is. Run hard out of the box. That would be my biggest thing as a manager if I was ever a manager of an MLB team or even if I was managing Little League. Respect the game. Respect those players. Because I don't care if that player makes that play 10 out of 10. Guess what? They're human. They are not robots. There's that one time that they might be 9 out of 10. And guess what? You're halfway already to the dugout when that man's already got you. Lack of hustle. And look, I'm all about showmanship. I'm all about just admiring a home run. But that also then happened in the game with the Reds over the weekend. Elliot Cruz, fantastic shortstop that they have. Fantastic future of the game. And if they could build around that kid and do a good job, I think the Reds can be a very formidable team in the future. Maybe even this year, like I said, you never know. They can make a turnaround. He went ahead and what we call or admired a home run, but somebody says pimping a home run. He looked at it and thought for sure. He ends up on second. He's doing his little celebration. Turns out he hit a home run. The thing went over the wall, but he was too busy, trying to, show it off doing a little celebration. He didn't realize that there's a home run. The guys in the dugout are telling them, waving their fingers around, saying it's a home run. And all of a sudden they review it, calling the field stands. It is a home run. There was no doubt. It was a no doubt home run. But he was too busy admiring it out of the box, right? I say hustle, and when you see that thing hit that wall or whatever, hustle. Because even if it hits the wall and you're not sure, then you're standing at second. And he hustled because the kid's fast. But had he watched a little more and just ran it out of the box and still watch as he's running out of the box, I guarantee you, even if it hits the wall, he's got a triple. Even if it would have been a home run, but he would have saw it, he could have saved himself. But again, that's my rant. That's my thing, and somebody could disagree with me. But I think that sometimes we don't respect the game too much when it comes to hustling out of the box. You got to hustle out of the box, and you got to just hustle for every play. And I get it that it's hard to hustle when you may be down by 10 runs, but you never know because one play can change the entire game. And I've seen it many times. I've been watching baseball for a very long time, and sometimes one play can change the entire game, can change an entire season, can change the entire everything. One play, just one time, can change lots of things. It can be a domino effect, is what the word I'm looking for. So, my rant for this week is hustle out of the box. Please hustle out of the box because it's going to be really hard for you to put your head down and go back into that dugout and face those other 25 guys in there when they know that you have not hustled out of the box. You're not giving everything you can for that not only name on your back, but that name you're representing across your uniform. Speaking of rant, here's going to be my rant for this week. So, as many of you have may seen or heard, the Bulls made another play-in tournament this year, which is nothing more than an NBA's version of a wild card, like in baseball. They were the ninth seed. They finished the season really strong. but they got eliminated by the Miami Heat one more time. Very next day, Arturas Karnisovas, and I hope I'm saying his name right, and if I butchered his name, I apologize. We'll just say Arturo, right? Says, which is the general manager of he says, I would like for you guys to please just have patience with us. We had a really good season, despite us losing by 20 points, which he didn't say all that, but again, I'm kind of sort of paraphrasing here. I need you guys for patience because we're just in this first part of this rebuild. I thought they were in a rebuild a long time ago, right? When they traded Zach LaVine and they traded DeMar DeRozan, I thought we were already in this rebuild. So you're telling me, dude, we're just in portion one, right? We're in the first inning. I'm preaching patience. I really would love for you guys to just give me just a little bit of patience, guys, because summer of 2026, that's when we free up some money, and then we're ready to go. And I said, summer of 2026. Did he get that wrong? Because we're coming up on the summer of 2025. So you're telling me that we have to go through one more season of them making some improvement, but not going to get a superstar or not even trying to compete for now. Because we need patience because summer 2026. Then I want you guys to just take that one more time. Because it took me a minute as I'm listening to him on the radio, doing the timeline in my head as I'm driving. Wait a minute, summer of 2026. So that means summer 2025 is this year. They start fall of 2025 and go into spring of 2026. So we still have to wait one entire season. No, we have to wait 2 seasons, technically. Think about it, right? Fall of 2025, they end the spring of 2026, right? Whether they make the play-in or they make an actual as a playoff as a seed, right? Say really not playing the play-in tournament. Then you're coming into the summer of 2026 and they go get whoever free agent is out there, right? For summer of 2026. You still have to wait to the fall of 2026 to see that team that they're promising you or they're telling you to have patience for. So we're waiting 2 seasons if you're really looking at it, right? And that's great if you were to preach patience at the beginning of this year, not after we just saw the same rerun that we saw last year, because last year they got eliminated by the Heat. It's the same story, but they're asking us for patience. Haven't we given you guys enough patience? How long has it been since we even won a playoff game? How long has it been since we even sniffed an Eastern Conference? And I wanted you guys to listen to another clip. And this clip is courtesy of, it's a show on Fox Sports 1. It's called Breakfast Ball. And it's hosted by Danny Parkins. And if that name seems familiar to you, Danny Parkins used to be a host here on The Score, and he was the Chicago guy. So again, he incorporates a lot of Chicago. Talk about the Cubs and the Bears and the Bulls. This is what he had to say about the Bulls and what he thinks us fans deserve.
I want to educate America on Bulls fans. Start the clock, please. Let's talk Bulls fans. You deserve so much better. After yet another 39, yeah, Craig, I'm doing it. 39 and 43 finish, ninth place. You want to know where they did finish? First in the NBA? Where? Attendance. Again. First. Why did I choose 2016, 2017? That's post Derrick Rose. All they've been doing is finishing below 500, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. They've got one conference finals appearance since Jordan, and they're still number one in attendance. And people say, oh, it's supporting a bad product. No, Chicago's a great basketball town. It's a global destination because people come to see the Jordan statue. I know, because even when I was at a Blackhawks game with my son, I took him to see the Jordan statue. I said, my kid, oh, it's so cute. I mean, look at that statue. It's greatness. I like what the Bulls are doing. Kobe White, Matis, they have potential. They need a star. It was 1.7% to get Derrick Rose in the lottery, 1.2% for Cooper Flag. That's the Bulls' only hope because the fans are going to be there. They deserve so much better.
All right, again, that clip was from Breakfast Ball on Fox Sports 1, and that was Danny Parkins. So he says we deserve so much more better. A few podcasts ago, I said, what is your loyalty worth? So they are first in attendance and haven't sniffed an Eastern Conference final. Like he said, don't you think we deserve better? So you're going to ask us for patience? I say it once and I'll say it again. You want to go see the Jordan statue? The Jordan statue is there for you to see it whenever you want. You don't need to buy a ticket to the game to see the Jordan statue because it's outside. You can go see it and you guys can take a picture with it. Unless they moved it inside. And please somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But if that's the case, then that's crap. Because honestly, that statue should be outside. But again, I don't know if it's inside. Whatever it may be, I know the trophies are inside. The last time I was there, that was for a Blackhawks game, and I happened to see the trophies that they had up. Right, they had them in a little case for you to see them. But again, you're asking a city for patience for a team that has run out of patience. Right, like I said before in one of my podcasts. Right, that Last Dance Netflix series did this franchise no favors. Yes, it brought you back to nostalgia, but it also woke up a sleeping giant in a lot of people to say, hey, wait a minute. The problem is not who's running so much the team general manager wise. It goes at the top. Go higher. Go higher than that. It's the owner. And don't tell me Reinsdorf doesn't own it. His son runs it, owns it, whatever. Same thing. Him and his daddy have the same philosophy. So to have Arturo sit up there and say, I preach patience, and that man is sitting by himself, falling on that grenade because Michael Reinsdorf should have been sitting next to him and saying, I have all the confidence in the world that Arturo Art can do this, right? Please, I know that's a lot to ask for of patience, but no. You're going to fall on that grenade, and I'm just going to sit back and be like, we're first in attendance, and we made the play-in again. That's just like the playoffs. Doesn't that sound mightily and eerily familiar to what his daddy, Jerry Reinsdorf, said about the Sox? As long as they're in second place, then I can say we were always in contention. And you guys want to shell out the money season after season. I'm telling you guys, unless somebody gives you these tickets and they are gifted to you, or your company is taking you on an outing, I would not spend a dime on this team because this team is asking you for patience. So you know what you should do? Let me know when I can run out of patience and when I can come back to your stadium and I can come watch you guys put a winning product on the court. And then I'll come back and then I'll see if you can earn my patience and earn my loyalty, earn my dollars. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I looked into the tickets on how much it was going to cost to go to the playing game to try to take my son because he's been to a basketball game, but I wanted to take him to a pseudo playoff game because I don't even count it as a playoff game. It's basically a lottery ticket, or to say if you beat this team, you got to beat this other team to get into the playoffs, right? It's a wild card like baseball. So I guess we'll call it a pseudo playoff, right? Tickets were ridiculously expensive. For what? For what? You're giving me no incentive to go watch this team. Nothing. No incentive. But you keep preaching patience, patience, patience. We've run out of patience, right? And we can associate it to any team in town, and I'm not just picking on the Bulls, right? Stop asking us for patience. Stop asking us to say, well, that soda at Wrigley Field costs this much because we're paying this $20 million pitcher and we have biblical losses. And over here, we're just rebuilding. We're starting to just get this thing back on track. The Bears, oh, well, Ben Johnson's the answer. I hope so. But until the man coaches one game, he's just another coach in a long line of coaches. Sorry to break it to you guys. Until he has proven that he can take this to the next level and they can draft properly, don't talk to me about the Bears. Don't talk to me about any of these teams. Yes, enjoy the roller coaster. Enjoy all the wins, all the victories, right? That's great. But we can save our dollars by not going and making them number one in attendance. I am also going to put up another stat. Not only were they number one in attendance, they also lost viewership on TV. So there's people, they're going to the stadium, but they're not watching them on the TV. And let me give you guys those numbers. Let me pull the numbers right here that I pulled. And let me tell you what they are. Give me 1 second, guys, and I'm actually pulling it up, and I apologize. Right now, not only the Blackhawks, but the Bulls, their ratings on TV plummeted. The Blackhawks TV ratings dropped 78%, and the Bulls TV ratings dropped to 63%. Why is that? Because nobody can find them on the TV. Unless you have an antenna, which I do, it's hard, right? Because you got to move the antenna, you got to do things, and do you really want to go watch a product? Even with an antenna, right? It's free, right? They don't have a subscription through Comcast. I know they have a subscription through other providers here in the city. I think through DirecTV and I believe RCN, but I don't know that for a fact, so please fact check me if I'm wrong. But again, nobody's going to go watch this. So if they're not watching it on TV, which is free, by the way, and I guess an antenna, a really good one, if you go probably 20, 25 bucks, right, for a nice, decent antenna, I might even be underpriced and it might even be more, right? $20, $25 for an antenna. You'd rather spend more than that to go to watch them in person, right, to get that experience. Don't forget about parking. Don't forget about concessions. Because even though what's going on And again, I'm not going to make this political, but everybody knows what the price of everything is nowadays, right? You're going to spend that extra money because you just got to see it, right? Again, guys, I'm not condemning anybody. I'm not trying to say anything. If you guys want to go to a game, you guys got the money. God bless you. I'm simply just telling you we're part of the problem. And I think these ratings should tell you more. But they're going to take these ratings, they're going to spin them and tell you, well, it's because Comcast is not playing ball with us. No, it's because nobody wants to buy your product. Not even Comcast is even going to bother paying the rights fees to broadcast you guys because you guys don't have a product worth broadcasting, right? So all I'm asking you guys is, how much patience should we have? How much patience do you have? I'm going to let you guys ponder on that, and see you guys next week.